Hi there, I'm Pastor and author Robert B. Scott of freedomchurchofgod.com. I want to give you an encouraging message here on this YouTube because if you're like me, you have little bumps in life, and sometimes they're big bumps. I remember when I was in Paris, France, and going to preach on the Day of Atonement in 1984, went back to France to preach, and there was some Jewish attentat. There was a bombing of Jewish temples, and because of the Day of Atonement, we had a special place, not a Jewish temple, we had a place to meet. I had to take my new route. My daughter was about 4 or 5 at the time. She was 84. She must have been 4 years old. And I did my typical French driving, not like a born in France. I mean, when Born went against the traffic, I watched him drive in Paris, and it's amazing. But I didn't drive like that. But I had my French driving technique when I had to really do it, a tough thing in and out and this and that. I had to go a different way to our hall because of the Jewish bombings. And so I did, and my daughter was in the back seat. "Oh, Daddy, this is fun. It's like a roller coaster." Have you ever lived like a roller coaster where your life has been like a roller coaster? I've been attacked lately with some trials, that were unusual trials, and I won't go into any detail, but it was like a roller coaster. You get hit these traumas, you think, wow, what am I going to do? You feel shell-shocked. Ever felt shocked by a trial? How do you react to trials? Well, there's one verse that's always been one of my favorite verses, and I think could be one of your favorites too. It's Romans 8:28. When you get shell-shocked, when you wonder what's going on in your life, you wonder, well, what is happening here? Romans 8:28 is a strong verse, and we know that God causes all things, did you hear that? All things to work together for good to those who love God, those who are called according to His purpose. Now, people like to take that verse and take it in its context and confine it to the context, but it's a principle. All things work together for good. If you love God, if you've been called by God, if that's your case, you don't need to worry or be concerned. You don't need to be in anxiety, because God says, look, He says when you go through trials, count it all joy. Now, it is not always joyful. The Bible says in Hebrews 12 that sometimes it seems grievous. But those who exercise themselves rightly, they would have the peaceable fruit of righteousness. But it's a Father who loves us is going to cause, or not necessarily cause, but allow things to happen in our lives that are going to bump us. It's like a roller coaster. You know, it may not be a death thing like the lady in Texas, the big lady who fell off of the big roller coaster and she died. It may not be death. And sometimes it feels like you're going to die. Paul said we were at sentence of death in ourselves because we didn't know what to do. Paul had cursed his companion, and the companion cursed him, and they were about to give it up. They were about to give it all up in despair of life. Have you ever been that close to feeling like you didn't want to live? Well, we all have trials. Trials are the bumps of life. It's part of life, but we don't need to be discouraged. We can count it all joy because God says you're going to learn endurance, learn character, and you're going to be like that fire in the kiln. You know, you're in the fire of affliction. God is there with you every step of the way. He'll be in the fire like with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And all things, God can take even mistakes we've made, even sins we've committed, and turn them around. He's the Redeemer. Jesus is the Redeemer. So don't despair if you're going through a roller coaster ride right now in trials. Remember that God works out all things for the good. Even bad things, when Satan throws bad at us, God turns it around for good. Don't despair. Don't be discouraged. But look to Jesus, who is the Redeemer in all things. All things are working for the good of those who love God. That is encouraging, and an encouraging word. Grab a hold of it in your trials. Hang on to Jesus.